What's good, fight fans? Welcome back to another episode of Combat and Kick It. We are getting into a few different things today. One of the main things I have to get into and talk about, because it is hugely being discussed right now, CAIN VELASQUEZ, his charges, ends up going to prison for 5 years. So I definitely want to talk about that, get into that a little bit. And then we have a pretty big flyweight main event this weekend between Brandon Moreno and Steve ERCEG. So we're going to break that down. So let's get into this episode. Let's go. All right. CAIN VELASQUEZ. This is just an unfortunate, very tragic type of incident. It's just kind of, it's BS in my opinion. I understand a lot in it. I understand where you get in trouble for the situation. I understand where he may have to serve some time and things like that. To me, 5 years is out of pocket. I mean, the man's son was getting, I don't even know if I can say it on video, SA'd, assaulted in a different way by an older man. I feel like any person with a son, any person with a younger sibling, anybody who you look over in any which way, you kind of feel the same way that CAIN VELASQUEZ did. So you cannot blame him for doing what he did. I can't blame him for feeling the way he felt. Could he went about it in a little bit different of a way and targeted that man specifically? Yeah, because he did put other people's lives in danger doing things on the freeway and stuff like that. But it's an act of rage that, in my opinion, the rage is completely justified. Completely justified. I mean, I feel like there is a real specific place in the world for people who do that stuff to children. So it's like, I back CAIN VELASQUEZ 100%. Hashtag free CAIN, because the man does not deserve 5 years. The man who did it to his son deserves, you know, it's funny, we say deserves life. That motherfucker deserves to get his ass beat in that prison by some honestly, he should go to the same prison that CAIN's got to serve 5 years in. That would make CAIN's 5 years justifiable. Put him in the same prison CAIN's got to serve 5 in. So promise you, that guy ain't lasting 5. And CAIN gonna end up adding some years to his sentence. But when you dive into it, you talk about, is this man a danger to society in any which way? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, what is dangerous about a man who was yes, it's a crappy way of acting through rage, but at the same time, like I said, it's justifiable rage. Deserves to feel the way he's feeling. Any, like I said, any parent, any guardian of any sort, anybody who's got younger siblings in any which way, anything like that, you can feel it. You can feel for him. So it's really unfortunate because, I mean, CAIN has had a crazy career just in terms of the fight game in general, and now all of this. But you see a lot of the MMA community, MMA fighters, people backing them 100%. You see guys like DC supporting the family. You see, you know, a whole bunch of people from AKA supporting the family, really trying to help take care of CAIN and his family in certain ways. And it's so unfortunate that anybody has to go through this, that he has to go, or that he has to go through this situation in general. Like, it just, one, no parent should have to go through that, finding out that their child is supposed to be going to a safe place and it's not safe for him. That should never be a worry in a parent's mind. You know, I'm not a parent, you know, but I'm at the age now where a lot of people around me, friends of mine and stuff like that, they are parents. They got kids and everything like that. So I understand. I understand that rage. Justifiable. And arguably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He just didn't get to get going. Obviously, the Verdum fight kind of just put a huge down skid on his career. But dude was a savage. Absolute savage in his day. So, free CAIN, man. I feel bad for him. Feel bad for his family. But hopefully like he maybe can get out on some good time or something like that. He gets out sooner than 5 years. But I don't know. The justice system is the justice system. And that's the most simple way I can put that. Anything can happen, and that justice system's like the fight game. Anything can happen. Well, let's move on. Get on to a little bit better of a topic. Brandon Moreno takes on Steve ERCEG this weekend. It's a pretty big flyweight matchup. I always talk about flyweight matchups that every single one of them is a little bit important because it's something that can help elevate the division in terms of excitement. The division is pretty lackluster, pretty boring. I think Pantoja is an exciting fighter in certain ways, but also has certain ways about him that are extremely boring too. I think if he goes out there and he continues to get finishes the way he does, not putting out 5-round fights with guys like Steve ERCEG, if Pantoja goes out there and just gets exciting wins, then that's not, people will back that. But Brandon Moreno and Steve ERCEG is this weekend, and that's what we got to focus on because this is big. This for me, I don't look at Brandon Moreno as a gatekeeper in any way. I just look at him as a guy who really realistically should be champion. For some reason, continues to lose to Pantoja, and because of how many times they have fought, he's not getting that fight again. So he has no other choice but to kind of gatekeep right now. Getting that fantastic win over Amir Albazi. He performed extremely well in that fight, and I have a feeling that he's going to perform extremely well in this fight against Steve ERCEG. Now, we know Steve ERCEG's got some good hands, but at the same time, we've seen Steve ERCEG's most recent fight. He got knocked out, KO'd by Kai Kara-France. I think that was his most recent fight. Let me make sure before I'm just talking that smack. Let's see what Steven ERCEG. I actually typed in Steven ERCEG. Yeah, his last loss was that KO loss to Kai Kara-France. He was supposed to fight that Almu Almabayev, the one who fought Manal Kape a couple weeks ago. So, ended up going up against Brandon Moreno. This is a very tough fight for him. This is an extremely tough fight for him. He has to get this win, though. There's no other option if he wants to consider himself still top of the division. And that his opportunity wasn't a fluke opportunity, and that him going 5 with Pantoja wasn't a fluke. He's got to show that he's still, whether he's got to go out there and win this fight or go out there and put on a phenomenal performance. And that's the tough thing to do against a guy like Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is very well rounded. He's got good striking. He's got a great jab, good boxing. Obviously, he's got a chin, and he's very dangerous on the ground. He's a big threat on the ground. You saw the work that he put in against Deiveson Figueiredo in their first fight, just defending things that Figueiredo was bringing to him, getting back up when Figgy was taking him down. In positions where Figgy was most dominant, he was showing holes in Figgy's game, and it was a very interesting performance, and that's why we ended up getting 4 fights of Moreno and Figueiredo. But Moreno is dangerous every which way this fight can go. On the other end, Steve ERCEG is not dangerous in every aspect of the fight that this can go, but he is good with the hands. He is dangerous with the hands. I don't see him knocking out Brandon Moreno. That's a very tough task, but I can see him, if he's smart, right? If he's smart, he can end up putting on a decent performance. But if he goes in there with any which way, the same way that he did against Kai Kara-France, he gets slept early. He gets slept within 3. I just think that Brandon Moreno is the best. Truly, he really is the best fighter in that division. And I know Pantoja is the champion. He's the one walking around with the belt. I understand it, and I understand he's even beat Brandon Moreno multiple times. That fight was close. That most recent fight between the two of them. But I do think Brandon Moreno is the best fighter in that division. I mean, we've seen him put on absolute wars with Davis and Figueiredo. I mean, the man had to focus on one fighter for 4 fights in a row. It was, it's just garbage. You got to focus on one fighter 4 fights in a row, so you're consistently fighting just rematches, and then you go into your first real title defense, and it's a rematch. So I think he just kind of had a real, shitty stump at becoming champion, but I think he can do it again. I don't think the division has anything to offer, right? So Brandon Moreno is a guy to offer, right? Davis and Figueiredo leaving the division was one of the worst things that could happen for that division, to be honest with you. Because who's the guy that would bring problems to Pantoja? Would be Davis and Figueiredo. I mean, he would bring serious problems to Pantoja. But Moreno and Steve ERCEG, probably going to be a fight that you see a lot on the feet. But I guarantee that Brandon Moreno will mix it up, because that's what Brandon Moreno likes to do. When Brandon starts to win on the feet, right, he starts piecing you up on the feet, starts finding his range, starts getting the rhythm, the timing, everything down packed. He'll start to mix it up now, because now he has more opportunity, he has more openings, right? It's almost like a pitcher in baseball. If you're familiar with the way that it goes, right? Say a pitcher has a batter down 0-2. He throws things called waste pitches, and it's because he has room to do that, right? He has room to be able to do that, and that's kind of the comparison I'm making there. You have room. There's a lot of room for him to do that. There's just a lot of room for him to be able to control in any which way that he wants, because he knows that he's got the timing of ERCEG down. ERCEG's not a threat in any other category besides on the feet. And if Brandon could find the range and timing and rhythm and all everything that comes with stand-up, if he can just get it down, I think he controls this fight any which way he wants to. And you could see either a 5-round unanimous decision win by Brandon Moreno, or like I said, if Steve ERCEG comes into this fight the same way he did against Kai Kara France, he's going to get slept again. Now, I'm not trying to sleep on Steve ERCEG, right? A lot of times I make these predictions and I'm way off. It's not impossible that Steve ERCEG could do something. And I say that in every fight. I almost do that kind of just to save myself, right? So you can't say that you know what I'm saying? You can, you see the little game I got going there. But it's not impossible for Steve ERCEG to come into this fight and do well, right? The Kai Kara friend, Kai's got pop in his hands. We got to be on. We got to be real. I mean, the dude does crack. It's not impossible for him to go out there and knock out Pantoja. Pantoja's been in a lot of wars. Got a good chin, though. He's got a good chin, though. But I would say that Brandon Moreno should be able to go out this Saturday night against Steve ERCEG and truthfully make it a pretty easy night on his end. But honestly, when Brandon does that, he will end up getting caught with a shot, getting some sort of cut over his eye or some shit, and just something that just plays a factor in the fight even when he's winning anyways. I see little shit like that happen to Brandon Moreno. I feel like that has happened to Brandon Moreno before. But dude's tough, durable. Steve ERCEG is no slouch either. I think it's going to be a good fight. What else is on this card? I'm pretty sure this is the UFC Mexico card. Okay, so we got Raul Rosas Jr. on this card. We got Kelvin Gastelum up against Joe Pyfer. Manuel Torres against Drew Dober for the co-main event. That could be a really explosive co-main event. And then Brandon Moreno versus Steve ERCEG. So it's nothing crazy. It's a decent card. Let's see. We got this, and then Josh Emmett and Lerone Murphy next Saturday. And then the Saturday after that will finally be in Miami. Volkanovski versus Lopez. Huge card. I am working on the individual breakdowns for Diego Lopez and Alexander Volkanovski currently, so make sure to stay tuned. You know how I like to do. I like to bring out the individual breakdowns. I'm trying to get more, just trying to think of different things to bring out content. Like, I'm still, even though I've been doing this for 2.5, 3 years, I still feel like I'm a rookie doing this, because I still feel like I don't come out with enough content. I almost run out of ideas of what content to kind of put out. So in the comments, let me know what type of stuff you want to hear me talk about. If there's things you want me to break down, if you want me to go back in time and talk about an old fight, if you want me to talk more about boxing, a certain matchup, anything like that, hit me in the comments and we'll see what's up. But just make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you know when the next episode is out. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Your boy Bando is out. Peace.